So I just want to quickly introduce Jason Huggins, who is my colleague at Sauce Labs. Jason is our executive software chef, and that means he's always trying out new recipes on us in terms of his, I mean, he's a really creative guy, just thinking out loud all the time, and it's just a wonderful person to work with. And of course, we've seen that with Selenium. A lot of you have already worked with Selenium in the past. He's going to show you with some of his new insight into what we can do with Selenium going forward. Jason was able to go and started that progress by working first at ThoughtWorks, where he created Selenium, later at Google, where he showed that with his team there that Selenium could be deployed against Google Maps and Gmail. I'm sorry, it was Google Docs and Gmail.
Start with Docs.
Yes, and just in general, how scalable Selenium could be for those types of applications. Now at Sauce Labs, we're trying to do that for the rest of the world. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Jason.
All right, thanks. So probably for most of the talk, I'll be sitting down. So this will pretty much be the only, I think if I had a lectern, I guess I'd be standing, but my computer's down here. So I'm, my Twitter ID is @Hugs, and email hugs@saucelabs.com. So on with the show. A history of the Selenium project, where it came from, what it does, what it doesn't do, a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to do in the future. Anyway, so let's just kind of dive into the slides. The problem space is Selenium was actually created when it was really, people would say this is a silly thing to do. IE had a 95% market share. Everyone used Windows. This is an internal app, so it just dictates, Windows, IE, you're done, right? But now fast forward today, we've got browser wars too, lots of browsers. The other thing is, so Selenium wants to be the functional testing tool that can test all browsers and all platforms, and not just Java specific or C# specific, but all languages. So eventually all these frameworks emit JavaScript and HTML, so we want to test at that layer. So this is the big, hairy, ambitious goal of the project. And other parts of the problem, kind of diving into what Selenium is meant for. If you've got an Ajax-y kind of an application, this is Google Suggest, where as you're typing, this thing kind of pops up. So testing this is probably the simplest kind of Ajax-y thing at the time. Also, when you want to test workflows, so this would be an example if I created a document, want to share it with my friends Larry and Sergey, and you click save and want to make sure that they have permissions. Kind of look at these end-to-end workflows. So that's kind of another kind of aspect of the problem when you want to verify workflows in a kind of semi-Ajax-y app. Also, at my former employer, they had this notion of there's too many names for tests, and functional testing is always kind of an overloaded word. And I've heard some vendors call functional tests, they call them unit tests, which is terrible. They just had this, they said a pox on all that naming house stuff, and they just labeled everything small, medium, or large. And small test is like unit test, large test is end-to-end, touches everything. The network, the database, the file system, the browser, everything. So Selenium kind of fits in there. And there's just one part of that balanced complete breakfast, but this is where Selenium is. When you want to test everything that's all connected up, that's what it's good for. And also, you want to do it in an automated way, right? Because life is too short, and robots are good at this stuff. So let's let the robots do the stuff that we can give to them, because they like to do it. This is the project that Selenium came from. Sorry for the contrast here. It looks wonderful on my screen, but it's this little button right here. Fast forward, got me to here today, but it was this thing. The problem was we were tasked with creating this time and expense project, and it was supposed to replace this really slow system. So we were kind of, one of the goals was this has to be fast. And there's this thing that was kind of noticing that, wow, instead of clicking add row and sending the entire request to the server, it'll do a whole bunch of stuff there and then send the whole thing back to me with one more row. It's like, wow, I can, with a little bit of JavaScript, just clone out that row 5 and add a new one, and magic. No request, fast, fast, fast. Like, this is great. Problem was, it worked in IE sometimes, worked in Mozilla sometimes. And everyone at ThoughtWorks, it couldn't just standardize on something. So the fact that this was breaking every other week in different browsers.
We cursed you.
Right. Right, and we went to production as fast as we could, so we found out this problem fast. And anyway, so it became this thing where I wanted them to write one test, but the hook was that it would be one test that could be run in IE and Mozilla. That was kind of the essence of it, because it was hard enough to get them to write one test, but then to run that test, or at least manually test in two browsers was impossible. So it was just all this tiny little thing caused it from, took off from there. The other thing is, as far as Selenium was not the first thing we tried. The first thing we tried was JWebUnit, which is really some fancy wrapping around HTML unit. HTML unit is pretty popular these days. And some people, I get confused sometimes with people saying, oh yeah, I love HTML unit. Now I don't have to use Selenium anymore. It's like, well, yeah, but you're kind of missing the point. It simulates the browser, but I wanted to verify things actually work in the browser because we were finding browser-specific bugs. Or just from the sense of